Really excited to be here, as I mentioned. So I'm Dave Aronson. I lead our partnerships team here at Suzy. We are an end-to-end consumer insights platform that leverages AI technology for both quantitative and qualitative research. Joined by Josh Nafman, who leads digital, data, and AI marketing at Diageo.
Etc.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm excited. Thanks for joining. So first question for you, and I always like to start by trying to understand, how did you get to where you are, right? So you're at Diageo, you've been there for a while, we'll have plenty of time to talk about your current role, but walk me through your trajectory, your career path.
I have no idea how I ended up where I am. I actually came out of college as a copywriter, strangely enough. And I've always fallen in love with marketing because it's a combination of art and science. So earlier in my career, I was very much on the art side of like, I want to be an account planner, I want to be a copywriter, I want to do ads and influencers and social media and everything. And then I got really burned out from actually arguing about the emotion of something, where I went completely the other way and went into lies, analyze, and statistics of data. So, and that's what I've been doing at Diageo since. So I have I think, 10 or 12 years experience on the agency side, where I learned how to actually do things rather than just manage them. Then that was across Apple and BMW. Then I was at PepsiCo for a while, and Kind Snacks and Hello Products, and just kind of really, I would say, sinking my teeth into what does brand marketing mean, et cetera. And then at Diageo, I took a left turn at data and haven't looked back. So now I'm a VP of digital data and AI. I like to joke around, anything attached to electricity probably goes through me at some point.
That's really funny. I was going to ask you to explain exactly, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. I joke around with my family, and it's been 23 years of my career, and they have no idea what I do. So I'm curious, if you meet someone or a family, what do they think you do, and what do you actually do?
They think I work in IT, and they ask me to fix their computer almost immediately. That's the default. But no, I kind of serve an interesting role. So I'm in the global function within Diageo, and what that actually means is that I'm between, I would say, the marketing department and the IT department. So I'm a unicorn, and I can speak both languages to as dangerous of a degree as imaginable. And so ultimately, I would say I can break it down into about 4 things that I do. One is I improve the ROI of certain channels. So I improve the ROI of media, making it more efficient, using lots of tools and approaches for doing that, usually biddable media. That's kind of my specialty. So programmatic, paid social, things like that. Number 2 is I really focus on how am I improving, I'd say, Diageo's perception of how to build relationships over time in the form of CRM and communications. So what does that actually look like? And then just because we are a spirits company, experiential is a really big thing. Everybody enjoys spirits out and about. And how am I making sure that in that incredible experience that people are having, we're providing value to you and back, and making sure that it's connecting those other pieces. Second thing I focus on is, some people call it omni-channel. I just call it connecting things with data. So how is media and CRM and experiences all working together so that we don't ignore you, we don't harass you, and we make sure that we're building a relationship over time rather than just saying, buy my stuff immediately, because that's awkward for everybody. And then the last thing is data community. So how do I actually upskill the company in terms of how to think about data? So different perceptions on data. And when I say upskill, I'm actually working with HR on this. It's not about, hey, how do you log into a platform and access something? That's not the training I'm looking at. It's how do you ask better questions? Because the thing is, I think that a lot of, I'd say, companies with middle management and things like that, it's less of a, do you know how to buy an ad, or do you know how to use AI? It's more of a, do you know how to ask the questions that are going to get you to the proper place so that it's helping drive the business? Then the last one is partnering with IT on enablers. So I can shoot the shit about everything around Azure instances and how is data all there? Because I'm really good at kind of taking whatever they say that's really complicated, boiling it down into really simple sentences like, we're going to take all the data, put it into a big pile on the table, and something's going to sort through it. That's not you. So
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, everything attached to electricity.
Exactly, that's a good way to summarize. So just think about the digital transformation that we're all witnessing part of firsthand, secondhand. Can you share about Diageo's evolution over the past couple of years, how you're keeping pace ahead of the industry?
Absolutely. So when I first joined Diageo, we like to say the agencies and the robots won. It was the way we described it. We are at arm's length, where a large portion of Diageo was convinced that magical internet elves made things happen. Where it was, okay, I would like to run media, and so therefore, media agency would go and run it, and we didn't really ask too many questions. We're like, did sales go up? Did sales go down? If sales are going up, things are going well. Sales go down, we have to look a little bit closer. So when I joined, we started to kind of take a different approach, which was more hands-on. Do we truly understand what we're asking for, and is that the thing that we actually want? And so it went as far as, I'd say, I'm not going to say test and learn, but one person on one brand in one market doing it differently than everything else was done. So we can step through the process and know all of the different pieces. And so we ended up in-housing programmatic and social buying off of that basis of first with one brand, then multiple brands, and then across entire countries for the purposes of let's understand it, and now we're actually putting it back into our media agency with explicit instructions of this is what we know drives our business and what doesn't. So I would say the evolution of it really has been how do we go from not understanding to a manual understanding to a more automated understanding, and now we're getting into the area of what does a reasoning or AI understanding of it go forward, but we want to make sure we understand, because otherwise we're asking the wrong questions.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point of asking the right questions. And when we're thinking about AI or ChatGPT or anything like that, you need to make sure that you're asking the right questions to get the right answer. Without that, you're not going to get what you're looking for. So,
Absolutely.
Can you maybe share a couple of examples, maybe something recent or your favorite in terms of leveraging AI into the customer experience?
Sure. So from a customer experience standpoint, I'll give you a prime example, and I love to pick on this particular brand of mine. Imagine you go to the Guinness Storehouse in Ireland, and you have an incredible, absolutely incredible experience there trying Guinness, and you get to pour yourself a Guinness. It's one of the best theme parks that you could possibly go to. And then when you leave, there's two things that were possibly going to happen. One is we act like you've never been there before, and we never speak to you again. Or the opposite is you get 6 emails within the same day from different parts of Diageo saying, please buy additional things even though you just already had a wonderful time. And that wasn't really relationship building. There was also no, oh, and here the next pint is on us at a local pub to drive anything further. It just wasn't a connected experience. It was showing the silos of our organization. So a way that we're improving the consumer experience and also the customer experience, because we differentiate between the two as an alcohol company, is we're using AI for, when it comes to a consumer, making sure we identify them as the same person rather than separate entities. So yes, the dreaded CDP or consumer data platform. So we're using that to go, is this the same person? Then we're making sure that one person can contact, one part of Diageo can contact that person at any given time. Do not harass, do not ignore. Then we're going as far as saying, when's the proper time? What's the proper messaging for that? And this is, I would say, the biggest fundamental change is how are we shifting from a brand focus of just they came in through Guinness to more of an interest-based one. If you're showing an affinity for, let's say, the sports aspects of things, maybe you're a broader sports fan. The vast majority of people don't go, I only drink one thing, I only drink one brand. They actually go, there's a different occasion, and Diageo is very invested in those occasions. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of the entire portfolio and the options that are out there, rather than just the one specific answer to the one specific question that you asked at that one specific time.
So when we're thinking about just this digital transformation that we were talking about moments ago, one of the things that I've seen over the years is that brands tend to have difficult time actually maintaining their core values, their brand ethos. So for Diageo, how are you doing that, again, in this crazy time of digital transformation?
I would say it's not necessarily that our brand ethos of basically celebrate life every day, everywhere is throughout us, because it's about celebration for us. It's what are the occasions that you're celebrating, whether it's with friends and family or with coworkers, et cetera. We want to be a part of those moments. When it comes to digital, it's not so much that our, I would say, ethos or kind of values are changing at all. It's more of our consumers are changing. And so when we talk about digital transformation, everybody thinks it's about data and technology and all these other things. It's actually not about us, and that's a really uncomfortable thing to say. It's the consumers are now viewing the world through a more digital lens. You now have gatekeepers in the forms of algorithms. Even more, a lot of iPhones that I'm seeing out, and so therefore Apple Intelligence is going to be another gatekeeper. How do you market to robots that market to people? These are fundamental questions that we just need to kind of continue to ask, but it's still through the lens of how are we helping you celebrate life every day, everywhere? And if it happens to be with technology, that's great. We also don't want to force feed it.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it is all about the consumer, right? Where they want to be spoken to, how they want to
That
be
is
spoken
what,
to.
for me, digital transformation actually is. It's brands realizing that they might actually have to be consumer-centric, because if they're not, the consumers won't have the opportunity to be brand-centric. If you ever try to type in, what should I drink tonight, into an AI, it's going to give you a generic answer. My question is how do you influence it to say, I recommend Johnny Walker whiskey, because it knows that you're a Johnny Walker whiskey drinker. It doesn't give brand names right now. So search and all those other functions, we're kind of screwed. So we have to get creative on how do you now influence a functional point of view on things, rather than most humans are emotional or have memories, et cetera.
Right, yeah, and then if it's on a Tuesday night, that I like to drink Johnny Walker, then that should be the recommendation, because it's a Tuesday night. I'm asking, but maybe there's something else. We were talking about this just before in terms of finding that balance between the efficiencies that are available through AI and the processes versus the need for human collaboration. I'm just curious what your overall perspective and how you balance that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still wrapping my head around what is the implication of AI and all of this. I kind of group it into a few different areas. AI being, hey, how am I saving money process-wise, saving money and time? The time one is a really difficult one in which most people don't track time. And if so, it's probably at the hour. My wife's a corporate lawyer, so every 6 minutes, writing down what you're doing, which is insane. But most people don't track time that way. So are you saving time, or are you just doing something different? So process is one. Another one is in terms of how are you using AI to improve an experience in which you're interacting with an AI. So think an agent, a chatbot, something like that. And then the last one is kind of like more thought partnership and things like that. So we were talking about it earlier of I like to submit my writing to an AI and go, play devil's advocate. What's the counter argument? What's the thing you expected to see that wasn't in here? What's the things that are missing? And it's nice to have something to bounce off of it that you're not going to have an emotional reaction to. I'm not going to get mad at the AI being like, that's personal. So overall, but I would say the way that I view AI and just data overall is data and AI are going to tell you how something happened and what happened, when, where. It's not going to tell you why. That's one thing that humans are incredibly good at. The AIs are getting better at the reasoning aspect of it, but humans have a hell of a lot more context around things, and AIs that are trained on the entire world or only trained on a small set of data aren't going to have that context of the other interactions and what other humans might do. And so overall, I think humans will always play a role with regards to AI for the sole purpose of why is a decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just thinking about it, so in my role is leading partnerships for Suzy, so Sumner, one of the guys on my team, sent me a text yesterday saying, hey, want to take so-and-so to a hockey game and his son, like that's something that experience is something that AI will never replace, right? That connection. So there's been a lot of debate, discourse on leveraging generative AI for creative content. So I'm a musician. I can literally go and use some AI and write a song about this conference in about 15 seconds. I probably wouldn't do that, but if I did, I would probably leave out the drums because that's what I play, and then use it as inspiration. But for you, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on using AI for generating different kinds of marketing content, whether that be, spots, commercials, packaging, labels?
So, like most brands, we're experimenting with, I would say, content in a very specific way, where we like to say that our entire approach to marketing is creativity with precision, is kind of like the tagline, if you would. And for me, it's you still always need a core idea and a choice made around a core idea of what do you want to communicate and get across. So a choice still needs to be made, and AI doesn't make choices. It gives you options. And so the way that we're thinking about it is we're applying AI for the purposes of what is the core concept, what's the core creative, and then the adaptability of it, so the adaptation of it. So Diageo operates across the entire world. And it's a matter of what is the resizing across every single type of of placements that we could have from a media or from an experience standpoint? How do we make it culturally relevant along the way? For instance, a lot of photo shoots within certain countries that we work with have people looking a certain way, while if all of a sudden you're operating in LAC or EMEA or in APAC, it's all of a sudden there is a very different way and a cultural nuance of how people are drinking or not drinking or standing next to drinks, things like that. And so rather than doing millions of shoots, AI is allowing us to do a few shoots and then basically allowing that concept to come to life in more modular ways. We're still not necessarily at a place where we're like, hey, we want it to write copy or to start from scratch, because candidly, I don't think we're at our briefs are for people to then brief back, essentially, and AI needs a very specific brief in order to get to where it needs to go right now.
How long till it gets there to that point? I'm just curious.
I don't know if it's ever going to get to that point, and the reason why is because as of right now, I find that AI doesn't really ask questions; it just gives answers. It has unlimited answers, but if you're real shit at asking questions, then it's not gonna go anywhere. And that's honestly like when I'm asked about like, hey, what's the skill for somebody that's going off to college or going to university and things like that? What's the skill? And honestly, like liberal arts is becoming more and more interesting because it's allowing you to, in philosophy, for the purposes of, do you know how to ask questions? Do you know how to get to the right questions? It's just not a skill set that an AI is ever really going to have yet.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you talked about the silos and kind of working across those, and I know we were talking before about that too. Can you maybe give me some examples, or the audience some examples, of how you've had to use data, turn those into actionable insights, and break through the silos across the organization, or as much as you've been able to?
Absolutely. So I firmly sit within the marketing department. I know I speak a little IT, et cetera. But there was always something where I wanted to look at alternative ways to reach consumers and reach more consumers, because that's ultimately going to drive my business. And a lot of things started from, hey, how do you capture consumer data, and then how do you retarget, and how do you do all this targeting of people? I started thinking about, if Diageo was a data company, what would it be excellent at? And I said, okay, well, Diageo does business in hundreds of countries and across millions of retailers, et cetera. We're probably the largest holder of alc-bev data in the world in terms of sales, in terms of distribution, in terms of other signals. So I started working across the silos of Diageo and their technical silos of like, there is a server that handles marketing, there is a server that handles commercial, there's a server that handles supply, and really going, well, what happens if I was able to play with the data over there and combine it with the data that I have within marketing for the purposes of creativity in data, which sounds kind of lame, but I truly believe it's there. Creativity is just taking two different things and combining them in a new way. And so what we've done recently actually is taking location data from of where we have the highest propensity for sales of certain things. So for instance, this zip code is a vodka drinking zip code. I have Smirnoff in Kettle One. So therefore, I'm going to target that location because of the propensity to buy that particular product, rather than targeting the individual. And the reason why is because there's something about that area in which that is what they are leaning towards, whether or not it's the bar, et cetera. And you can ask the questions of why, but it's just a really interesting thing. So we've kind of automated that to a certain degree of saying, here's our commercial data from a sales perspective of those locations. Here's the locations themselves of where we know that we sell. And then going as far as, okay, well, what products and messages do we want to put out there? So it's almost like a reverse dynamic creative optimization. So I'm targeting the location with the creative based off of what's going to be most profitable for me, knowing that it's a high propensity to work. So that's one thing that we're doing. And then connecting the pipes so that it can work in a trade desk, it can work in a meta and stuff. And it's working really well. We're seeing 25% reduction in CPMs, and we're also seeing 30% increase in ROI. So to give an example, is like most recently, $1 in equaled $11.26 out, which is fantastic.
That's very impressive. Yeah, that's great. So one of the, a topic in the industry that's near and dear to me is the non-alcohol or the low alcohol space and the sober curious. So I think I told you I had done Dry January in 2023. Is that what it is? It's still Dry January for me. So I looked, it's 649 days that for January. So yeah, I'm just curious how you are leveraging AI from an innovation perspective, but also from a broader marketing perspective to ensure that that cohort are looped into your overall strategy.
Yeah, I would say the no alc and low alc trend is actually the sister trend to premiumization, where coming out of COVID, I don't think that it's going to be very difficult to lap those numbers. But overall, basically, there's a lot of people that are going, well, I'm going to drink less, but I'm going to drink more. For instance, keeping Don Julio 1942 on the shelves at $250 a bottle is actually near impossible for some reason. And so people are going more premium. So if I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink more. And then also people are exploring more no alc and low alc. You'll notice that the motto of the company is celebrate life every day, everywhere. It's not drink alcohol every day, everywhere. And so
it's probably better that way, yeah.
And so overall, the idea is how can we best support from a celebration standpoint? And there's a lot of spirit alternatives that we have, such as one is called Seed Lip, which replaces gins in an extremely well way. And also, we just recently finished the acquisition of a company called Ritual Zero Proof, which is alternatives to whiskey, et cetera. They're fantastic for cocktails. Also, Guinness Double Zero. When you go, okay, Guinness, it's typically a really dark beer, and sports fans and rugby players, et cetera, are drinking it. That's kind of like the vibe that you get from it. It was one of the, I think it was the top-selling beer in London for about 2 months running. And the reason why is because it's about the occasion, not just what you are consuming during that occasion. So however we can help people celebrate life, that is where our business is going.
Yeah, the Guinness Double Zero, I love. Yeah. All right, so it looks like we're almost out of time. Last question for you, and just thinking about, again, this age of digital transformation, what are some of the qualities that you look for in a leader in the space?
So for a leader in the space, the first one is that if anybody gets on a stage and says that they know everything about AI or they're an AI expert, they're full of shit. It's moving way too quickly for anybody to be an expert. So the thing that I would look for in a leader is somebody that knows what they don't know, number one, and also just stays curious. It sounds really lame, but honestly, the person who continues to learn and continues to ask questions of how can I use this, when should I not use this, things along those lines, but also recognizing that there's real implications of the AI decisions that people are making. So what are you training it on? There's tons of biases in these things. And also, what are you, I'd say, what are you really getting out of it? If the goal is cheaper, I'm not sure if that's always the best thing, because especially if you're in marketing, cheaper isn't always better. Better is better.
Yeah, I love the comment about just curiosity, because that's so true, not only in this role, in this environment, but pretty much anywhere, right? I don't know if that's the time's up, which is fine. We can open up to questions if anyone has questions for Josh.
With so many different brands in your portfolio, you astutely said, like, it's up to us to figure out, like, one message, one customer at a time, instead of everyone messaging. How do you leverage AI, or what tools are you using to prioritize which message is going to get to the consumer?
So I'd say that's part of the digital transformation, if you would. It's, as of right now, a lot of marketing says, my brand means this, and this is who I'm going to target, when I'm going to target them, et cetera. But just because that's the way that the brand thinks about it doesn't mean that's the reality of it. A lot of consumers would go, okay, if you have whiskey during lunch, a brand might go, no, whiskey is a nightcap thing. Or if you're having Guinness, not at a sporting event. We kind of impose these, I would say, restrictions on those things a lot more. So I'd say the biggest change for us is actually looking more at the signal of what consumers actually do, rather than only the research of what we're doing. So how do we combine, I would say, targeting and research and gut a little bit more, and also make sure there's the adaptability in it, because it's no longer, it really depends on your opinion on how brands grow and the existence of loyalty, et cetera. Ultimately, I think Diageo is shifting towards the idea of what does choice look like? What does adaptation look like? And so it's kind of messing with us from a strategy standpoint. But the way that we're walking through it is we're focusing on the occasions and making sure that this is the occasions that we think are most appropriate, but otherwise, again, celebrate life. I wouldn't say it's necessarily conflicting goals. It's one company and one goal. But I would say the challenge with that is I'll give you an example, actually, to make it live. Let's say we have a consumer that comes in via Johnny Walker, and that same consumer also shows a propensity for tequila. Who gets them is a conversation, and the response that I give is, we don't own them. They own their experience. So what signals are they giving for at any given moment in order to provide them an experience? We're meant to be helpful and provide value, otherwise we should stay out of the way.
One more thing. So since this is an AI session, I didn't tell you this, but I loaded your LinkedIn profile into ChatGPT and I asked for a couple of questions. So,
Fantastic. I'm screwed.
Yeah, no. So I'll just go with the first one. I didn't write these, but your profile says you have a high maintenance dog. So first question is, what kind of dog is it?
I have a Lhasa Poo, which is half teacup poodle, half Lhasa Apso. Basically just a mop, like a 14-pound mop on the floor.
All right, so you mentioned your dog Ted is a bit high maintenance. If Ted could use AI for one thing to make his life easier, or his or her life easier, what would it be?
Automatic dispensing of treats.
Okay, fair enough.
If I bark, treat just goes flying across the room, and yeah, that's 100% what you would do.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.